Balance. The scales, the very concept is a two-dimensional thought form. Duality. You see how these things correspond? 2D, duality, equations, mathematics, all this stuff is 2D. Within science and math, there's always going to be the search for balance. Putting things together, 1 + 1 = 2 is a balance. We live in a three-dimensional world, but three-dimensional energy is toroidal, the spinning donut. In, out, in, out, in. This is gravity, three-dimensional reality. These points, which are continually moving and pushing us onto the ground. Fourth dimensional consciousness, fourth dimensional thought forms, exist in a form of transference, broadcast and reception. Well, reception of thoughts and ideas. Quantum mechanics approaches this, but they're attempting to use two-dimensional thought forms to create an equation that makes sense in a three-dimensional realm where there's gravity, so it has weight and makes sense. Except you wind up with Schrodinger's cat existing in two states at once. You've got Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. When anybody observes an experiment, they affect the outcome. This is transference. This is fourth dimensional consciousness. It's fourth dimensional physics. Transference is an issue. Fourth dimensional consciousness and the transference of fourth dimensional physics from one point to another is not 2D. You can't explain it that way. You cannot present it in a three-dimensional form. How can this coffee cup exist in multiple states at once when I'm only looking at the one? It's because you have to use fourth dimensional consciousness and fourth dimensional physics, which can't fully be explained in a three-dimensional reality. There are all these paradoxes, which aren't paradoxes at all if you open up your receptor. We call it the third eye. It should be called the fourth eye because it sees things fourth dimensionally. It's a receptor for fourth dimensional transference. I explained top-down consciousness to you before. You consciously need to be in a state that is above what you're looking at. The toroidal effect of gravity is being used against us to keep us in a third-dimensional state of consciousness. Communication, transference of thoughts and ideas need to be freely exchanged fourth-dimensionally rather than three-dimensionally, because you're not going to get it that way. But it's being used against us all the time. This torus of energy is pushing us down into three-dimensional space. Those who understand and utilize fourth-dimensional energy, transference, would be kept in a state of perpetual arrested development. But you're not. You're just... See, when you receive information, there's people are using the term download a lot. I've downloaded information. That's transference. But when this receptor is blurry, the lens on this eye is blurry, you have a hard time distinguishing where these ideas are coming from. You have a tendency to think that the ideas are yours. You know when they are yours. The torus is being used against us subversively, so that we think these downloads, the transference of information is coming from within. Here's a two-dimensional example. Your cell phone, texting. Text is 2D. Your screen is two-dimensional. You receive a text from somebody and you know the person. You know where that text came from. What though that message is, the idea is, you know it came from someone other than yourself. Even if it came from somebody you don't know, you know it didn't come from you. Here's this message. that I just received, and it's not coming from me. 2D thought forms in three-dimensional form with gravity that's pushing us all into this arrested state of awareness, and blocks put on the transference. You got to be able to recognize when the fourth dimensional text that you're receiving is coming from someone else and not you. People have a tendency to think that any thought in their head is either their own or they're crazy. If you're hearing voices, you're not crazy. Those voices are coming from somewhere. There's a transference of fourth dimensional energy. And you need to be able to recognize, you need to open this fourth eye up so that you can recognize who's sending you the message. This is being used against us, but we're also transferring thoughts and ideas to one another. This shifting energy, this frequency of our planet is changing to the point where we're hearing everything. We just don't know where it's coming from. And it's being subverted and used against us. Open this up to a point where it's not blurry and you know who's sending you the message. Then you can determine what to do with it. Information is information. Knowledge is knowledge. What you do with it is what matters. If somebody's sending you a bad idea, don't run with it. If it doesn't feel right, then don't act on it. Or act on it in, a way to prevent the bad idea from becoming enacted. We're moving into fourth dimensional space. Can't be stopped. Balance is a two-dimensional thought form. Three-dimensional reality is gravity, which is a toroidal push of energy. And 4D is transference. Go ahead and transfer whatever works for you. Just know where it's coming from.